it's the white walls again, Josh. This is bullish monad. We have sort of a white walls indicator here where we're assuming that the more things people have on the walls, the least opportunity. And your office here is giving us bullish vibes, Keone. Bullish
That's
vibes.
what our gong should be. We should have a gong that we just gong every time we see white walls.
Yeah. Well, I like your walls as well. I'm sure I'm not the first person to talk about the Yeah, very
Yeah,
nice.
the math involved in ensuring that 11 a.m. tracks carefully across our back screen, despite the thousands of kilometers in between us, is they'll write papers about it at some point, Keone. But man, we're excited to dive in. I mean, you continue to push forth a very bold initiative here, from I think the vision you're building at to the game plan you guys have rolled out as you've approached token launch, and from being the first token that is going live on the Coinbase ICO platform. So lots for us to get in here today. But maybe let's just start off with the Coinbase news here. Help me understand the strategy behind wanting to be a part of the first token sale on Coinbase and kind of expanding access to Monad through a token sale.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I think it's a historic moment for crypto in some senses. The Coinbase token sale platform is an effort to enable broader distribution of tokens and give normal everyday people the opportunity to participate. Although there have been other, and I guess just in general, the growth of token sale platforms over the past year or two is quite exciting. But I think that Coinbase has a new approach just given its existing retail distribution. So for us, it was really a priority to have a combination of a really thoughtful airdrop that really focused on members of the Monad community as well as members of the crypto community through various metrics that we could pull from social media platforms, on-chain activity, and so on. But there's just a much broader set of people that are crypto curious and maybe trading on centralized exchanges or holding on centralized exchanges who haven't made that leap yet. And this is really an effort to try to get those folks involved.
Yeah, how are you? I guess you had the opportunity to talk to these kind of the long tail of retail participants on Coinbase that maybe aren't as deep in the trenches or even aware of kind of the L1, L2 competition and opportunity. Like what would be kind of your easy description of the big opportunity you're going after and why they should want to be a part of Monad?
Yeah, Monad is a fundamentally very ambitious project that is really intended to onboard a lot of people, and that's true both in terms of the technology as well as in terms of our efforts to onboard a lot of folks into the space and get people creating wallets and get people using decentralized apps. We've been building Monad for the past 3.5 years, so it's really a long-term effort. I know sometimes people criticize Monad for taking that long to launch, but the reality is building a completely new tech stack from scratch and introducing the different optimizations that were needed to address fundamental bottlenecks and doing it in a way that is supportive of really low hardware requirements so that anyone can run a node and so that a huge number of nodes can participate in consensus and nodes can be fully globally distributed. This is intended to be really a build for the long term. So that's why our team has been working for such an extended period of time before going to the mainnet. And now with the mainnet about a week away, it's just a really exciting time. So it's good sort of overall collision of all these different factors that have been building up for a while, including now this token sale.
So I think a lot of the conversation that we've had here is sort of around wrapping our heads around or seeing a collective figuring out of what makes a token valuable. And I think we've seen persistent strength in sort of the L1 thesis, despite maybe some people seeing those down-only charts from some of these early launches. And underneath that is sort of this idea that these core tokens are not only used for provisioning of resources on these blockchains, but also almost as money, the ability to kind of, or the need for these base tokens to be able to participate in the broader ecosystem. I'm wondering how you guys are sort of conceptualizing the opportunity for token holders in this ecosystem?
Yeah, I got really interested in Dogecoin in 2020, probably like a lot of other people, but I think that the Dogecoin origin story of initially being just like a funny token that people on Reddit were gifting to each other because the value was so low, that ultimately resulted in really strong distribution by a huge number of people that were excited about um, cryptocurrency and excited about some of the messaging of Dogecoin. And I think it got kind of retrofitted the do only good every day meme for Doge. But in general, like having really strong distribution is incredibly important to the growth of any crypto network. And we've seen that time and time again. So I think that although it's become harder and harder over time, almost inevitably, due to the fact that when there's an sort of a opportunity, you end up creating a lot of civil farms and professionals that set up sort of like bot servers to bot test nets and bot discords, and so the over time it's become harder and harder to achieve really broad distribution just through a pure airdrop strategy. So I think that the token sale effort is really the next frontier in this battle that ultimately ends up happening between new projects that have really thoughtful efforts to try to get really high distribution, and the robotics, the machinery that is sort of incentivized to do this. And I think that it's like an arms race, and we have a new weapon in the battle.
I'm interested in how you guys, I guess, approached or are approaching your TGE at the highest level. I think obviously you have the challenge cut out for you with, very hyped. You have a big airdrop. You have your ICO. Obviously, you've raised a bunch of money, so this thing needs to come out at a meaningful valuation. So a lot of things are going to go into this that make it very hard to launch this token in a great way, or at least a lot of things you have to consider. So I'm curious what's kind of your North Star there, or how are you approaching it and kind of taking all those things into consideration?
Yeah, I agree with you that expectations for any project really make it challenging to really surprise, because people do have lofty expectations. But with that said, that's not a bad thing. Like it is a privilege to have the market expect really great things out of the new Monad project. I would say a couple of things come to mind. The first is that I and the rest of our team really care a lot about our North Star, which is decentralization. We think that decentralization is really important to the original vision of crypto and is really what makes crypto special. Crypto is special because we have the ability to replace existing centralized systems where there's a single actor that that has a huge amount of power, and replace those with decentralized systems where power is distributed and where the rules are all enforced by code. That's a really powerful thing, but what we need is better technology to support that. And that technology comes in the form of better Byzantine fault tolerant consensus mechanisms, better systems for processing large amounts of transactions, a new database that addresses the single biggest bottleneck in execution, which is the state access problem. We need these new technologies in order to allow decentralized systems to scale to more people, and to do so in a very robust, reliable, and fundamentally scalable way. So that's sort of what we've been building for the past couple of years, and what we'll continue to adhere to over the next many years, because it's really going to be a long-term effort. And I think we're just kind of at the starting line right now of growth of and adoption of this new network. But there's a fundamental foundation that is very strong, technologically strong, and also a really strong community of builders and community of enthusiasts that are going to help push this forward.
Okay, so reading between the lines here, think that broad distribution, so a lindiness of this token is really important. Clearly, the technology and the focus on getting that right has been the North Star for a while. It is also clear that you've taken a slightly different approach to ensuring that there are really interesting things to go do on your chain on day one. And that's been done through, I think, what I would consider more of like an acceleration or incubation type of approach. And I think we had, I'm forgetting her name. This is so bad. We had Tina on recently talking about some of the incentives that are coming out upon launch and sort of this, I would say sort of an interesting new way of stewarding an ecosystem, which is, I think, clearly the other piece of the other leg of the stool here to that your success, I think, is ultimately built on. So I'm curious, if you look out over the next sort of 6 months, 12 months, what are the types of things that are going to be built on Monad that are going to be like defining your chain?
I think that's really for builders to decide. It's not for me to decide. One thing that we feel very strongly about is we're very anti-king making. We care a lot about having a level playing field where any builder can, get a baseline level of support and resources that we can provide in a scalable way as one actor in the ecosystem, and others can and basically like just provide that level of support to anyone, but not designate like one particular project or one particular use case that will carry, because we don't know. I don't know. I think a lot of the previous successes in crypto have been a little bit unexpected in some senses. Like for me personally, it was very hard to predict that NFTs would become so big, or it was very hard to predict that pumped up fund would take off. It was hard to predict. We don't know, and so we just don't want to assume. But I do think that there are extremely talented builders building in the Monad ecosystem, and my goal is to support everyone as much as I can.
Are there any examples of projects that are being incubated right now that feel kind of like a really unique usage of the Monad tech stack, and maybe couldn't really be built elsewhere, would have had to make some significant trade-offs to be built elsewhere?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to clarify, when you say incubated, like we don't incubate any projects, but just projects we're building them.
The core point of his last answer.
No, I know. Yeah, wrong word. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I think a number of great examples. Kuru has built a really strong, fully on-chain exchange that includes a full order book, a vault system for liquidity providers to supply liquidity and have it automatically quote tightly on that order book, and a smart order router. I'm really excited to see them go to mainnet and get to go, prove their worth in the battle of the market. Crystal Exchange is another really strong exchange that has really strong UI. They've built a launchpad system as well as a full order book system. I think in general, I'm quite excited about high frequency finance and the growth of and the migration of even a small portion of the huge amount of economic activity that's happening in centralized exchanges, both crypto and non-crypto. There's just an incredible amount of growth potential for the crypto industry, if even a small amount can migrate.
All right, so I mean, I would assume that beyond getting mainnet out and then this big lift of getting a token out in the best way possible, that's sort of both those things have dominated your thinking. But we're moving towards mainnet. Clearly, that is just the start of a whole new big set of opportunities and challenges. I'm curious what keeps you up at night if you look out over the next 6, 12, 18 months.
I think the world is just a very big place, and crypto is still quite small in comparison. I think we all understand what's possible when we look at existing markets, or we look at existing consumer apps, or we look at existing social networks. Like the world is massive, and I think the opportunity is any teams out there to build for that much larger set of people. We have now great infrastructure from a wallet perspective, or from a blockchain perspective, from like all the core infrastructure is here. So I think for me, it's really about two things. The first is continuing to deliver a world-class, really performant base layer infrastructure that is truly decentralized. One thing that is really notable about Monad is that it is one of the few blockchains where if you search for validator map and then you put in the name of the blockchain, like you will get something. And the reason for that is that Monad is a really decentralized layer one. Like I want everyone in crypto to know to like search for that and like see the level of decentralization that exists right now in the network, as well as watch it grow over time. There's not an effort to like put all the nodes in one place or centralized from a hardware perspective or centralized from a block production perspective. And I think that that ultimately helps support a level of robustness and a level of cross-border adoption that I think will be really important for the next leg of crypto. The second thing that I'm worried about is just supporting amazing builders and helping them to get to the starting line of trying to find PMF and iterating, getting market feedback. For us, the past couple of years has been getting the Monad project to that starting line so that all the great projects that are building in testnet can actually get a ton of market feedback. And then it's just going to be iteration from there.
Yeah, very sick. Yeah, there's a number of projects that have been on testnet for a while that feel very polished and like they've been very ready to get out and probably could have 6 months ago. So exciting that we're finally a week away and we can get some real market feedback for things like KISD and yeah, so some other projects that feel like kind of net new things here.
Yep.
Exciting. All right. So, I mean, the token sale is live. I'm actually, maybe before we let you go here, I'm really curious about how this opportunity came to be with launching on Coinbase. So clearly been in the works for a while. There's a number of places you could have gone with this token sale. What ultimately landed you in doing this in partnership with Coinbase?
Yeah, I think there are a number of great platforms that have really started to get adoption over the past 1 to 2 years. And I think they all have different and unique approaches. I think for us, the motivating factor was really a combination of trying to do something very different that would reach a broader audience. I think that there's a sense in crypto Twitter, like in our bubble, that that there's just a lot of competition for mind share within that bubble. And for me, the Coinbase token sale is really an opportunity to transcend that bubble, to pierce the bubble, and actually to onboard a lot of new people into the space, both as stakeholders in the Monad network, but then more generally as people that are optimistic and excited about crypto and trying out new protocols, trying out new applications, even trying out other chains. Like that was the really big opportunity that we saw with Coinbase that I don't think existed with the other platforms we were considering. But I know that as time goes on, other platforms will continue to iterate and improve their distribution as well.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. The Coinbase opening up sort of or bringing on sort of the DEXs, so decentralized assets into Coinbase, I think was a really interesting thing. But I think we questioned the practicality of that in many ways because I think if you look at the majority of people that are, at least who I would assume are holding on Coinbase, they're probably holding the majors. They're not active traders. They're sort of in this, crypto adjacent interested bubble. And yet, if I go back to the reason why I'm in crypto, I think the thing that has pulled the vast majority in, it's this sort of idea of being able to be a part of something from the earliest stages in a way that we are not able to in the more traditional, traditional markets, traditional startups, et cetera. And so I think through that lens, this idea of folks being able to be a part of, broadly a part of a new thing that has a bunch of mind share and that they haven't really felt that opportunity to, I think is, potentially really big. And I think, again, especially right now, this idea of lifting our head up out of the crypto Twitter bubble, I think has both never been more important and never been a bigger opportunity, especially as we sort of look into the future over the next couple of months and years. that's where the opportunity lies. And kind of, yeah, very excited to see the sort of distribution and breadth and the types of participants that come in here, because I think it could be a good signal of, you know, new strategies people can roll out in the future. Amazing. All right, Keone, we'll let you go here, man. I know you have a whole lot on your plate right now. Always appreciate getting to chat with you, and yeah, wish you all the best as you go through this next couple of weeks, and of course over the next months and years as well.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Keone.
Peace, man.